Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Fire Up Wisconsin. We're in round two of our doubleheader. We started off with Fire Up Michigan, had a great show. Three of us are coming over from one to the other, and we want to definitely thank Taylor Phillips and Ed Smith for being on the Fire Up Michigan portion. And, of course, alongside of me tonight, we have Candy Ebling. Welcome back, Candy.
Thank you, Scott.
And Eric Katz. Welcome back, my prize pupil.
Thank you, Scott.
And, of course, Brett Gardepee.
Hello.
And long time no see, fire up Dwayne Casey Cherovich. That was good. Nick can hardly tell what he's thinking tonight. And last but not least, my longtime colleague, George Eichhorn. Welcome back for round two.
43 years and ready for another show. Good to be on.
You bet. Yeah, how many have we been on? Don't worry. I can't count the time.
Count.
Not even try.
7 months and I'm still making it, so I guess I'm here.
Yeah. Now, let me give everybody an overview of what we're going to be talking about tonight. First of all, we're going to talk about Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Long parting shots. What I'm going to start doing with these Fire Up Wisconsin shows is going to two major subjects and allowing parting shots so we can focus on those that make the two stronger. With that said, okay, I'm going to lead it out. I like having Candy last, so we're going to have Eric Katz go first. So, Eric, tell me, who's at fault? Is Aaron Rodgers at fault for the 8-9 season? And then the second follow-up to that question, Eric, is what's his next move?
Absolutely, Aaron Rodgers is at fault. I mean, you can say, oh, the defense can't stop the run. Yeah, that's a problem. But here's the thing, though. Aaron Rodgers didn't participate in training camp. He didn't participate in the preseason. He knew he was getting new receivers. The only receiver that he would have familiarity with was past his prime, Randall Cobb. And then also Robert Tonyan, who even so, Robert Tonyan is not very relevant in the offense, no matter how much of a fan favorite he's become in Green Bay. But Rodgers is very responsible for the season because, he had opportunities to get himself situated with the receivers and whatever. He knew Davante Adams was going because keep in mind, though, as great of a year Rodgers had the year prior, all he was doing was dumping the ball to Davante Adams. And Davante Adams was getting most of the catches. They never really spread the ball around. So when it came to their divisional round playoff against San Francisco, they weren't able to really score. And also, Rodgers, I think his next move is he's getting out of Green Bay. I mean, if Green Bay's smart here, they'll trade him because number one, Jordan Love at least has some familiarity with the receivers. I mean, he showed up to camp. He was probably on the first team while Aaron Rodgers was gone, and also he participates in the preseason, and they got a promising wide receiver in Christian Watson. But, he's young. He's ready to go. Odds are, at this point, he's in year 3. That was the same year Rodgers got his start going and got his career off the ground. And you have to just, if I'm the Packers right now, what are you doing with Jordan Love? Why are you holding him back?
Well, Eric, we'll get to that in a moment, but I'm glad you brought his name up. So, but that said, let me ask you this, though, because you bring up a lot of really good points, okay, Eric? And that's this. Let's just say that Rodgers leaves. Where do you think, Eric, would be the most logical places for Aaron Rodgers, Eric?
Well, it's a pretty good question. I'd probably say number one would be I think one place would be the Raiders because you have Davante Adams there, you have Hunter Renfrow there, Darren Waller's there, Foster Monroe's proven to be a decent tight end whenever Waller can't go, and he's got and depending on what they do with Josh Jacobs, you got a pretty solid offense around you, and the Raiders are known for investing in their offensive line. So you'd be able to go in and win right away. Another place would be the Jets, who got some promising young receivers, which the irony of it would be, that's the exact same place Favre went to after Aaron Rodgers took over, and the Jets traded him to the Jets for that one season.
Right.
But the only difference is I think Robert Saleh would welcome it, unlike Eric Mangini. And but it's the Jets. It'd be a little tougher of a challenge, but I think really, if I'm Rodgers, I'd want to go with the Raiders, who's got a very good offense, who are ready to win right away. Even Mac Hollins has proven to be solid. Right. You have a team ready to win right away, and Rodgers isn't getting any younger. Sooner or later, he's going to fall off the cliff like Brett Favre did.
Okay, all right, Brett. Aaron Rodgers, is he responsible for the 8-9 season, and what is his next move, Brett?
Who's responsible for the 8-9 season? It's a mix of everybody. Yeah, I think Eric hit the Aaron Rodgers points. But let's look at coaching, too. It took us, 3 additional weeks and, 7 fumbles for us to finally go, maybe Amari Rodgers isn't a good punt returner.
Right.
It took until the bye week for us to go, maybe on a 3rd and 2, we shouldn't play 10 yards off the line of scrimmage. The Packers' adjustments this year were weeks behind. And that was so frustrating to me. It just seemed like everything that they did was just too late. And, yeah, I think Aaron Rodgers is at fault. His receivers had drop issues. They're at fault. I think we didn't rely enough on the run game. This offense should have been Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, which, leads to some easy play action throws for Rodgers. So I think it's a mix of everybody, but I do believe that Aaron Rodgers is partially at fault for what happened. And where does he go next? I think Eric stole my answer, and I was going to say the Jets. They have a championship caliber defense. They have a nice young stud at running back in Breece Hall. Garrett Wilson went for over 1,000 yards with Joe Flacco, Mike White, and Zach Wilson throw into them. They're building something. If they can figure out that quarterback situation, I think they could make the playoffs next year.
Okay. All right. I'll turn it over to Jeremy. Jeremy, I'll ask you the same question that I asked Eric and Brett. Okay. Aaron Rodgers' fault for the 8-9 season, and what's his next move?
Aaron Rodgers is doing one of two things. He's either demanding a trade or he's retiring. And in all actuality, Packers save more money by him retiring. When you look at it, the dead cap and everything, it'll end up clearing $17 million in cap for him if he retires. If he's traded, it costs you guys more money. That's something to think about unless you trade him after June 1st. Because the roster bonus and everything gets taken out of that equation. So that's your two options. You can either wait till free agency and everything's done, but by that time, everybody will have their draft picks and most of free agency done and in place. And will somebody need him by then? That is the big question. So if he retires, and because of the way the NFL rules are, he'll either have to be a speaker for Green Bay Packers engagements, or he'll have to repay his bonus so it doesn't become dead cap.
Okay, fair enough. George?
Why don't I give you a couple names here that you took off of Detroit's hands? Aubrey Pleasant and TJ Hawkinson. You know what happened after those two guys went to Green Bay and what happened in Detroit after that? I think we all do. It was a reversal of fortunes. And I'm not trying to say that depended on the whole season, those two moves for the Packers finishing out of the playoffs. But I'm just making a point here that the Lions were onto something, and not defeating the Lions twice is such an embarrassment to Green Bay this year, not to mention other problems they had with schedule and games against the division. But right. I mean, I'm just saying, I don't put it all on Rodgers. I agree with Brett. A lot of the coaching is very suspect. A lot of the management, the general manager, a lot of those moves are suspect. The Lions were very happy, as my friend reminds me always, Jeremy, to gladly give you both that assistant coach and that tight end. I know TJ is on the Pro Bowl roster, so you're not getting chump change here. But you gave Detroit some draft leverage, which you really shouldn't have done. And as far as Rodgers goes, I don't know where he's going to end up. Maybe Tampa Bay. What about that? I mean, Brady is probably going to move on, it looks like. Now, I don't know what direction Tampa's going to want to go. But, of course, you have the other ones that you mentioned, too, as far as the Jets and the Raiders are also probable destinations. Aaron's got to give a decision here. He's got to give the Packers their peace of mind, and you got to move forward.
The thing is TJ went to Minnesota, though, not Green Bay.
I'm sorry. I am sorry about that.
No, TJ
was meant to thank you for the correction there,
Jeremy. Yep. All right, well, you know what? Here's the thing, okay? I'm going to go ahead and piggyback off of Eric Katz. Number one, okay, it is Rodgers' fault. When you get a bunch of brand new receivers, okay, you need to do everything in your power to get on the same page as these guys. Patrick Mahomes, okay, lives in Texas and brought a lot of his receivers down there, and they spent a little time to get chemistry, and I think it's all on Aaron Rodgers. You get new receivers, you got paid, right? you're not playing in training camp. I mean, for crying out loud, what do you expect? But you know what? Forget about what I have to say. I think the most important opinion is coming from Candy Ebling. Okay, Candy, but I just say that I think Aaron Rodgers is all at fault for this because he didn't get reacquainted. Where does he go? You know what? To me, it isn't Denver because obviously that Nathaniel Hackett isn't there anymore. We all laughed at that a year ago. The Raiders could be a possibility, and yeah, Joe Namath. I don't care if you're going to give Aaron Rodgers your number 12. It doesn't matter at all, Joe Namath. If you do, Aaron Rodgers will do what he's going to do, and I think that he should retire. That's what I think he should do.
I mean,
Candy.
I wouldn't, I was hearing the comment earlier about being swept by the Lions. Number one, the Lions were pretty darn good this year. They very nearly made the playoff. They just needed one other team to lose, which didn't happen, unfortunately. But out of all the losses they had this year, 6 of them were by 1 scores. And they lost. They weren't able to finish those games, but toward the end of the year, they got hot. And that team isn't a slouch anymore. It's no longer a pushover, and they clearly have a lot of promise there. And they have Jared Goff is showing that the Super Bowl year where he took the Rams to Super Bowl year with no mirage. He's starting to kind of bounce back now that the team actually wants him around. And so, but as far as drops and all that goes, and play calling, whatever, a lot of drops, those drops don't happen. Yeah, they're gonna happen occasionally. That's just part of the deal. But they wouldn't be happening as often had Aaron Rodgers done his job and gone to camp and actually worked out with these guys in the preseason, because Aaron Rodgers doesn't play in the preseason. So, this one is completely on Rodgers. Forget the play calling, forget the drops, forget everything else. Yeah, the receivers are ultimately responsible for that. But those don't happen had the chemistry been there. That way, the guy throwing the ball to you, as well as being able to, understand where he's going to be when. I can't. I mean, yeah, it's ultimately on the receivers, yes, but also it wouldn't have happened as often had Rodgers done his job and gone to camp.
Okay, Candy, take over.
So what I'm going to say is, who's to blame this year? You're saying should it be Aaron Rodgers, all on Aaron Rodgers? And Scott, you've been on that bandwagon all season long. I'm going to respectfully disagree. Yes, a big portion of it is Rodgers, but I'm going to say the bigger part is on Matt LaFleur. You are the coach. You are supposed to gel your team, whatever your team needs. Look at some of these other teams, how they gel together, they do things together. You have such a team that's divided. You have a lot. Don't get me wrong. Aaron Rodgers is a prima donna. We all know that. But you need to coach him and everybody else. And the problem with a prima donna is he's trying to get his way. He's trying to bully to get his way. Right now, they're saying, and I'm going to take this out of context, that yes, he thinks he can be another MVP. My question to you is he wants this person back, Randall Cobb, this person, that person. You didn't win and even get into the playoffs with those people this year. What makes you think you're going to be able to be an MVP and do it next year with those same people? The Packers have $35 to $40 million that they need to shave off the salary cap for next year. You think you're going to be able to, you think all of your guys are going to come back for less money? Are you going to take less money?
And let's piggyback off of that. Not only did he not show up at preseason, but you guys had a new OC at the same time, which means the playbook changed. So that whole development, because he didn't even play a preseason snap, did he?
No, he did not.
No.
So that being said, if you don't play in the preseason, you have no familiarity whatsoever with that playbook and how the plays are ran. You know the plays because the verbiage probably didn't change much because it's still the LaFleur system, but plays in that playbook changed that you had not seen before. So by not building that chemistry, not working out with your wide receivers all offseason, nobody was on the same page, not even the running backs, because nobody had worked with them. Aaron may have a set cadence, but if you don't work with that cadence with the new players, they don't get it.
You can't.
Well, and I also think that Aaron doesn't have the arm strength that he used to have. The same with Brady. Neither of them do. Your arm is. You've been playing in the league 18 years. You can't tell me that your arm strength is still the same as it was when you were. And that's what these new young wide receivers were used to playing with quarterbacks that have more arm strength.
Well, that's where that thumb comes into play too. He played a lot of the time with that broken thumb, and you can't grip the ball the same, which you're going to lose arm strength.
Right.
Yeah, but all the more reason why Rodgers should have been there earlier. You guys are stating my point really nice. And you too, Katie.
I think
Rodgers should have been there earlier. And if he had gotten familiar with his receivers like Eric has been talking about, like I am, some of you guys are alluding to, he should have been there early. You got your money. You go to OTAs. You get familiar with your new teammates. And Brett, I know you've been fairly quiet. I want you to chime in on whether or not Rodgers is a lot more responsible. I know you gave reasons otherwise, but let's not face it. Brett, you're up there in the Wisconsin area. So go ahead, Brett. Let me know how much responsibility bears on Aaron Rodgers, even if you don't think it all is on him.
Oh, I think a lot of it, I think quite a bit does fall on him. Like I said, I can't absolve him. Like, he should have showed up to OTA. He should have. If he wanted to win, he should have taken a little less money for them to sign more weapons. And now we're $40 million over the cap and only going to get worse because Aaron Jones has a cap hit of $20 million next year. Do you really think we're going to pay him? No, he's probably out. We'll probably have to restructure or cut Bakhtiari now.
Isn't next year the year you got to re-sign A.J. Dillon too?
I believe. Well, I know Jordan Love's up for a new contract.
Not this one. I mean, next season in 2024.
Yeah, because that was the same draft with Jordan Love, who's now up for a new contract. We don't know what we have with him. We saw flashes during the Eagles, but
I think they should exercise his fifth-year option immediately because that's going to be cheaper than if he has a good season. I think that would be the smart thing to do because that'll keep him in that rookie area and at the lower end of the salaries.
But Jeremy, we're going to get to Jordan Love in a moment. Okay.
No, I'm just saying. I know.
I'm totally
piggybacking.
No, and that's okay. Nothing wrong with piggybacking. I know that that's why I only went with two major topics because these are easy ones that we can easily cross over. It's no big deal. I just want everybody to know that. Don't worry. We got plenty of time to talk about Jordan Love. And anybody that wants to piggyback, more power to you. I just think the main question I'm asking Brett is how much of this is really Rodgers' fault?
I say at least 70%.
All right. In fact, you know what I'll do? I'll go around the horn with that. You say 70%. George, give me a percentage.
60%.
Brett?
I'll go. I'd probably have to put about 50-50, half on him, half on coaching.
All right, Eric, what about you?
I'd probably say about 75 because, obviously what it comes down to, you can't just blame it all on one player, but, it comes down to coaching. It comes down to obviously, there's a bunch of parts of the equation. Obviously the Packers special teams, for some reason is still a problem. And also the issue there is also, defensively, they somehow still can't stop the run. People can run it down their throats all day long. And also you got to add Quay Walker into there and his stupidity, not once, but twice this year.
Candy?
I'm going to say 50% because like Brett was saying, there's coaching, there's all kinds of other in there. Yes, he's more than any other player or any other coach total to blame, but there's more than just him. It takes a whole team to win and it takes the whole team to lose. And I just want to quick read off some. Will's in our chat. He's talking Rodgers is gone for sure. He's visibly upset with the team and organization. He thinks Aaron is going to Vegas, and he says Aaron is 65%.
Okay, and I'll give you my percentage. I say 90%.
I
do. And I'll tell you why I say 90%. I'm going to go back on what I just said. The man is getting paid. You have a responsibility to not only go to OTAs, voluntary or non-voluntary. You need to get on the same page as your receivers. You have a bunch of pups with a few veterans. Of course, Sammy Watkins was signing. His injury history bit him again. But, again, Aaron Rodgers, you got paid a lot of money. The franchise is in deep trouble monetarily. The least you can do is do something that they do have a blue collar work ethic, okay, show up and get on the same page with your receiver. So I'm going to say 90% on Aaron. Sorry, Aaron, it is what it is. All right. Our next subject, I know we've been dancing around about it. All right. You know what, Jeremy? We're going to really dance around with it now. We'll talk about Jordan Love, where he will eventually land, Green Bay or elsewhere. And what do you think lies ahead for Jordan Love, Jeremy?
I thought when he broke his thumb, Jordan Love should have became the starter at least for 3 weeks to let that thumb heal up, and Aaron Rodgers might have been better. But at that point, if they'd have won games at that time, would they have brought Aaron Rodgers back right away? Because I don't care about money. I care about results for any team. If you love your team, you care about results. And when Jordan Love came in, when he first broke that thumb and he came in that quarter, he looked good for you guys. He didn't throw any picks. He had a nice completion percentage, and he looked like he had some chemistry with those wide receivers, unlike the starter.
Fair enough. Okay, George.
Well, 10 games in 3 seasons for Love obviously is not a good benchmark. But I'm still high on the kid. I really am. They took him in the 2020 draft, I believe. So he's had 2 or 3 years, which is kind of ideal in the NFL. You want when you have a leader, a veteran, I'm saying, like you do in Rodgers. It's kind of the unwritten rule that, the understudy, the young kid watches and observes for a couple, 2, 3 years. Now, that being said, like I said, he's only had 10 games experience, so he hasn't had a whole lot. And his volume of action is much lower than many other young quarterbacks that would have been in the same situation that he is, that were taken in the draft as high as he was. I'm just saying that I think Green Bay would be very risky for them to hand him the reins. Very risky if Rodgers leaves. I would imagine Green Bay is going to go out and get another veteran. And I'm not trying to say get rid of Love, but I don't think they're going to hand him the starter's job. No.
Yeah, I agree with that. Candy, why don't you? We'll let everybody know that Fire Up Wisconsin can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts. So, folks, if you're out there on your bicycle, subway, wherever, feel free to tune in on those as well. And also, please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. And if you want to locate me on Twitter, do so at Tribune South. With that said, okay, let's turn it over to Brett. Let's talk about Jordan Love. What's going on with that? Where do you think he'll eventually land, if anywhere?
So I'm really high up on Jordan Love. I want to see more of him. I think if we do trade him, I think some possible destinations. I think Washington could be looking for a quarterback. I think the Colts are another team that are in the market. Obviously, already mentioned the Jets.
The Saints.
The Saints too.
Right.
But I really hope we end up keeping Love at this point. Like, what's our ceiling with Rodgers? It doesn't even feel like half the time it's Super Bowl with Rodgers right now. So I'm not sure. Honestly, at this point, I wouldn't mind if we took a risk and traded Rodgers and ran with Love. If he's rough, oh well, we can kind of do a mini rebuild, get some more talent around him. But I'm high up. I'm hoping we stick with him and just kind of get rid of Rodgers this offseason, honestly.
So I assume you're tired of the drama like everybody else, right, Brett?
Oh, very much so. Like, he's more concerned about being the MVP of the league than winning another title. That's really all I needed to hear. Just let's move on from him. Post June 1st, save $15 million off the cap or let him retire. Let's take a chance on the young quarterback. If he doesn't pan out, we just had like 30 years of winning football. We can survive like 5 years of rough football.
Okay. All right, Eric.
Well, I think the greatest benefit the Packers can do right now, because right now they're, as Jerry Reinsdorf says, say what you will about the guy, the worst place you can be is in the middle. The Packers are in the middle right now. I think the best benefit of them would be to just hit the reset button, trade Rodgers, get yourself some draft capital, get ready for going forward, and see what you got in Jordan Love. You've drafted him in the first round. Typically, a first round quarterback's supposed to go in there go in there and see what he's got. And so far, we've only had 10 games in 3 years from Jordan Love. I mean, you can't measure a guy who's played sporadically or plays every so often. Against the Eagles, when Aaron Rodgers was getting smashed all over the turf, Jordan Love, I think, he had something that Rodgers didn't have, which was chemistry with receivers, because he showed up to camp. He made the most of his opportunities. I mean, the Packers were willing to let go of Brett Favre after 2 Super Bowl rings and God knows how many playoff appearances, and
2 Super Bowl appearances, 1 ring.
Right. Yeah, I forgot he went to back-to-back and then he lost that year to the Broncos. But anyway, you were willing to let him go with all that he accomplished in Green Bay and as being a beloved member of Green Bay. Why can't you do the same with Rodgers? Favre was doing the same antics toward the end too, which is what makes this so ironic, because we all remember 2008, how it was the same old drama in sleepy Green Bay. But why not see what you have? I mean, if you really weren't that high on the guy, then why'd you draft him? You needed plenty of help in other areas in 2020. The receiver class was deep, just saying. But why not? You gotta put him in at this point, because at this point you're wasting his time, and he's already said he's going to demand a trade if you don't play him. So, your move, Green Bay. You don't. Aaron Rodgers is only a pawn. He's not a giant king piece on the chessboard.
All right. Go ahead, Brett.
I'll say, let me double down. Not only do we draft him, we traded up in the first round to get him. Like, it's time to take off the training wheels. Let's see what this kid's got.
Yeah, another thing too, Brett, I'm glad you brought that up, is Jordan Love got drafted in a situation. We're dealing with COVID-19, so it's not like an opportunity to really do a lot of hands-on stuff too, COVID-19 factors. Another reason why I mentioned the 90% is thanks to Aaron Rodgers, Davante Adams left the building as well, because he was sick and tired of all this nonsense of being able, who's going to be my quarterback? Not that worked out any better with Derek Carr, but he was rolling the dice as well. So, all right, with that said, I'm going to turn over to Candy. She's got that old nice Wisconsin look. Take it over, Can.
Jordan Love is on a very cheap contract right now. He takes a $3.94 million cap hit right now. That's all we're paying him. If we exercise his contract for his 5th year by May 2nd for the 2024, his 5th-year option will cost us $20 million. Still cheaper than many other people, and even probably cheaper than a lot of the backups that people are saying go out and get a veteran. By that point, he is a veteran. Let's talk about it. He's backed up one, albeit everybody has their own opinion whether Rodgers is a good quarterback or not. You can't argue with his career. Yes, maybe he didn't win a lot of Super Bowls, but he has been 4-time MVP. So you're backing up a really good quarterback, just like Aaron backed up Brett Favre.
10-time All-Pro.
Yes. So is Jordan Love, he's learning from now hopefully he doesn't learn his prima donna antics.
Don't learn the bad stuff.
But he's backing up a really good quarterback. And
learn the work ethic he had his rookie year. Because Aaron Rodgers was at every OTA, he was at all the preseason activities. That they did have. Remember, they just had that 2-week preseason during the COVID year, and our off-season workouts, and no preseason. And that's another thing you have to think about. That means all those rookie corners that were starters, all those rookie wide receivers, none of them got to work out with anybody, and they came in and everybody looked cold, but Rodgers looked good. Why? He was a consummate pro. He was back-to-back MVPs for a reason.
Anybody want to comment on Will's latest?
If Love gets traded, I would say Saints, even though they have Dalton and Winston, they are older.
Well, the deal there, though, is, come on, Jameis Winston, really?
Exactly.
Jameis Winston's a turnover waiting to happen.
And Andy Dalton is the beige water pistol.
And Andy Dalton is just basically floating around on a sailboat right in the middle of the ocean. That's all that is. I'm not sure what you could I'm not sure, if that's that situation would be great. Although they have some decent weapons over there, but I think Love. Yeah, I could see. Well, I don't think they're going to trade him. I think depending on what they do, if they trade Rodgers, I think that they're going to put a veteran in there just in case this Jordan Love experiment goes south and they don't have to play the guy all year. They can just put the veteran in, salvage the season, and then move on.
That's what I think.
All right, well, you know what? I'm going to roll.
Ty Detmer was hanging around in Green Bay with when Brett Favre was there.
I want to roll a little with the chat here. Okay, so I'm going to put them in rapid fire. All right, number one. Who wants to talk about this?
I got you.
Okay, I'll let somebody
Between all the veteran QBs on the market and possibly Love and Trey Lance, a high pick in the draft isn't as valuable as it usually is.
Well, yeah, all you need to do is mention Brock Purdy, and that's all you need to know.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's continue on with the chat. I enjoy putting these things up.
30. It's actually he played 18 years now with.
Yes.
So 18 plus 16 is 34 years of winning football and only 2 championships.
Try playing defense, and maybe you might win.
It's a lot more than the Detroit Lions have won.
I was going to say that's 2 more titles than most franchises.
I know that.
Maybe you shouldn't have gotten rid of Bobby.
But I agree, the bar is very high in Green Bay, and that is not enough. 2 championships. I do agree with Dom.
All right, let's continue. Dom's on a roll. We'll let him.
And he says, obviously, I hate the Packers, but I will never understand all the moves they made to prepare for life post Rodgers, re-signing Jones, drafting Dillon, drafting Love. Then you still give Rodgers that bag.
Yeah, that didn't make sense to me at all. I thought we were preparing to get rid of Rodgers back in 2020 with those moves, and then all of a sudden you give him $150 million.
And just like Favre didn't want to mentor Rodgers, Rodgers isn't mentoring Love.
Well, there you go. And you know what?
His job. It's not his job to do that, guys.
No, I understand that. That's not what he's saying. He's saying that if Love turns out okay, it's not because Rodgers taught him anything. It's because he learned it by watching.
Right.
Osmosis.
You can go ahead. He doesn't have to. He's in the QB room with them. He can go ahead and go watch what he does, cheat on the test, and boom, he gets the A.
Right. Hey, listen, I got to tell you one thing. I love putting these comments up in the chat and watching every one of you react to them. I don't have to comment on everything out there. I just enjoy watching the participation. That's what makes this show, between having good comments and great things in the chat. It makes my life a whole lot easier. Andy,
one of my things that we all talk about, how we want Rodgers to be traded. Let's remember how much of a salary cap he takes this year and next year. It's not just 1 year contract.
Right. It's a total of $102 million.
Who's going to be able to afford it? And you say you want a lot back. How are they going to be able to afford giving us a lot back if they've got to afford $102 million in the next 2 years?
So your options at this point, if you think about it cap wise, your options are the Jets, the Texans, and the Bears, and the Bears aren't trading for them.
No, but you know what, Jeremy? You said something interesting here. Hold on. I would find it intriguing, okay, and I say intriguing, if Jordan Love made his way to the Texans.
I'm talking about for Aaron Rodgers.
I know, but I would even find it. No, hear me out, okay? I know what you're talking about. Aaron Rodgers would be caught dead with the Houston Texans. No way. No way. Are you kidding? The odds of and I'll say this, and I'm not saying this to go out on the wall. The odds of Aaron Rodgers going to the Texans would be me like thinking that another African-American head coach would get hired by the Texans after what happened to David Culley and Lovie Smith. And I'm not making, and here where I'm going
to blame Lovie Smith on that is awful.
Let me finish, okay, Jeremy? I'm with you. But here's the thing. I'm just making an observation, okay? Number one, no, Lovie Smith and David Culley got the 2 worst raw deals on the planet when they went there. That was just simply bad.
And Lovie Smith had him in ball games.
I wouldn't see Green Bay. I wouldn't see Rodgers going to the Texans. I mean, listen, he may be a lot of things, but he don't have a super man cape to try to rescue that franchise.
No.
And let's face the reality,
You're
the
right,
Texans are
Scott.
taking the quarterback in the draft anyways. You know it. Just
Yeah.
because they're 1 to 2 doesn't matter with the Bears number 1 with Justin Fields. They're going to get their quarterback of the future. Lovie Smith was sticking it in their ear saying, you know what? I want to win. And that's all there is to it after the fact they didn't give me a fair chance there. And his predecessor. I'm not using anything to do with race or anything like that. I'm just saying Stephen A. Smith sent this and said, and I do like Stephen A. to some extent because he may be loud, but he researches a lot. So I do find him credible to some extent. Is if I were an African-American coach, I wouldn't go to Houston. And I don't think they're going to get an African-American guy to go there anyways. If they would, the only one who I would even think would go there might be Eric Bieniemy, who deserves a chance anyways to get a head job.
Aaron Glenn would take it probably.
Well, maybe. Okay, but my
see it.
point is this. There's no way that Aaron Rodgers, is going to go to the Texans. And I could see Jordan Love going there. I could, but that's just my opinion. Folks, when we come out there with these opinions, it just everybody has their own. And I'm just going by certain things that I see out here, and you look at all the dynamics that you have. But Jordan Love, to me, they drafted the guy, they moved up to get him. But here's the one thing we can't forget about. Had the Packers have been eliminated from playoff contention earlier, I think that Love would have gotten another 2, 3, 4 games anyhow. And that's the one thing that we can't lose sight of. Listen, it came down to the Lions. Think about it. The Detroit Lions are already knocked out by the time they go into that Green Bay game. What do you got to motivate? Dan Campbell. Oh, I just want to knock the Packers out. I don't care. That's good enough. And they ran through the wall. They beat the Packers. And all of a sudden, Melissa Stark is talking to Dan Campbell. And my goodness, the Lions never saw a national television appearance until the final game of the year, which is where they had 17. That anybody in their right mind would know that ABC was taking the Lions over Green Bay game anyways, because number one, if you're looking to make money, you do it with 2 charter franchises that are battling out with something on the line. If that wasn't a home run financially for NBC, tell me what the word means, because I don't know what it is. So that's probably as much as I'm going to say about the whole thing until I get to my parting shot. I hope I've opened up a few things for each and every one of you to comment on.
Let me add.
With that said, after the mouthful I just put out there, Candy, is there anything I said that makes any sense?
Absolutely not.
Good.
You talk like a true lion, trying to say that you haven't gotten any respect because you guys haven't been on national TV for the longest time.
Why would they?
Rightfully so.
We didn't deserve to be.
You have done a much better job this year. And
until this season, the Lions did not deserve anything other than the traditional Thanksgiving game that they still lose almost every year. But that being said, that's our primetime game every year. You can say what you want, but it's the only game on at that time. That's a primetime game for its time slot.
And it is a very highly rated game, too. All 3 games on Thanksgiving are ratings bonanzas for the NFL. But that first game against the Detroit hosts, you're right, Jeremy, it is off the charts. Being said, I agree. The Green Bay deserves to be primetime, deserves to be on national television. Nobody knew that they were going to be 8-9 this year. Come on.
I mean, this is, here's the thing, with Green Bay. I mean, I think Green Bay with number one, never say never, because if there's a quarter, I think a team, in order to make this trade happen, is going to probably try and renegotiate, the Aaron Rodgers' contract to make it work. If there's like a Super Bowl winner there where Aaron Rodgers got weapons around him and he's got an opportunity to win a Super Bowl and possibly an MVP, I think he'll do it. I mean, look at the Browns, what they did a few years ago with hapless Hugh Jackson. They took on Brock Osweiler's miserable contract and eventually let him go. They were willing to do it with Brock Osweiler, of all people. But, with a talent like Aaron Rodgers, teams, you'd be surprised with what teams are willing to do. I mean, the Jets did it with Brett Favre when Brett Favre went there for 1 year. I mean, with teams, there are plenty of teams with a lot of cap room that will make it happen, and who can afford to make it happen. If I'm a team right now and I've got the cap room to get a guy like Rodgers, and that is the piece I need to get to the playoffs and possibly the Super Bowl, then I'm making the phone call to Gutekunst right now and dipping my toe in the water and saying, hey, let's talk.
I'm saying New York Jets is the right pick because they've got over $70 million in cap. and they got a top 10 defense. They've got good young weapons. I think that's the team that should be talking to Gutenkirch right now.
What about you, Brett? What about you, Brett? I want to hear a little bit more out of you, Mister.
I was going to say first, I agree that he's not going to Houston. I think if they called Rodgers and said, "Hey, you're going to Houston," as soon as he heard the word Houston, you'd just retire.
I retire.
So I don't think it's the fact that Houston wouldn't want to trade for him. I think Rodgers would just say, "Yeah, no, I'd rather just sit on the sideline and go take my magic pills or whatever you do during the offseason in Costa Rica." But I really do think that it's the Jets. I think that's the right answer. I think they have the best mix of talented offense and defense. The only other one I can really think of is maybe the Commanders. They got McLaurin, Gibson, and Brian Robinson. But I really do think that the Jets are a much better offense than Washington, because I don't think Rodgers would want to go there either.
Why would he want to go to Washington to be?
Yeah, but you know what though? Sorry to interrupt you, Eric. Washington would be an interesting place for a quarterback to go to, because there's a situation, you have a couple wide out, and who the heck in the right mind would not want to play for Ron Rivera? You know what, though, Jeremy? I got to let you have Dom's comment here, because this one is definitely...
Am I able to sell what the D-bag means? Am I able to say that on the air?
You know what? Just read it.
Okay. Rodgers has been a D-bag for years now. He's also unavailable, disinterested in the offseason. Why wasn't he working with Dobbs and Watson in the spring and summer?
Thank you very much, Dom.
Because he was too busy doing DMTs with that witch girlfriend he called Blue.
All right, but you know what, Tom? You fall into the GMTA thing. Great minds think alike.
We thought that all said that earlier.
I know, but you know what, George? It's all about the input in the chat room. That's what makes it such
Tom
a
just wants to get back on the show. I know what
he's making a good case.
It's because I'll give you an answer. It's because it's also because with Rodgers, he was too busy acting like the Kardashians to even pay attention to his job.
Exactly. He didn't want to do his job in the offseason. He was too busy worried about that girlfriend, doing magic mushrooms, and hosting Jeopardy.
That's true.
I mean, he was pretty good on Jeopardy. You got to give him that.
Yeah, that's true.
They said they never want him back.
So you know what?
I like him.
Okay. Jeremy, I'm assigning you on the Dom train to read all of his comments. I'm going to go ahead and continue to put them up one at a time, so you better read them as fast as I talk.
Okay. McNair hired 2 different black coaches to try and dissuade people from his obvious racism.
All right. Nobody has to comment on it. We're just...
Yeah, that's... Next. Kudos to Eric for searching and somehow finding a way to mention Osweiler in a positive light.
Hey, I remember the move when it happened. They were like, "Oh, we'll go." You know, I was like, "Why are you taking this deal on?"
Rodgers wants no part of the AFC with all those young good QBs. I know that's what he meant.
Well, Mahomes is actually a lot better than you. So let's be honest.
All right, next.
I agree with Dom.
Yeah, okay.
And Will Vogel also says Jeopardy is trading him for a bag of chips.
I'm not exactly sure where Will's going with it, but if it triggers a little bit of humor, I'm okay with it, Will. That's okay.
They traded him for Blossom. Think about that.
Hey,
the girl that played Sheldon's girlfriend on Big Bang Theory, who actually does have a doctorate.
Also, she's very good.
Hey, Will, your comments in good taste. Maybe I'm just not sure if I understand. I got 5 other experts. Hey, Katie, I'll tell you what. Let me ask you what you think of what Will Vogel's comment. Jeopardy is trading him for a bag of chips. I want to hear that from you.
With the Texans, with the Texans, pick your poison. Would you rather work for Cal McNair or Dan Snyder?
You know what?
Kyle McNair.
That's another thing. The team's going to be sold, so you have no idea what they're going to do in the future. The Redskins. I'm sorry.
No, I still call them the Redskins openly. I still do.
So do I. And I think Washington's going to get sold to Jeff Bezos and eventually end up in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Well,
no, they'll never move.
They're not going to move
Eric,
from the nation's capital.
Hey, Eric,
no way.
Eric, don't feel too bad. I call Miller Park, okay, in your neck of the woods. And I also call Joe Robbie Stadium in Miami Joe Robbie Stadium. So unless those sponsors want to write me a check, that's okay. But I'm just going to stick to the names.
It was the Redskins for the last 20 plus years of my life, and at this point, I'm just like, you know what, it was that way forever, and that's just the way it's been. I'm pretty content with that right now.
I tell you my nickname, but I don't think Scott likes it.
I don't know.
It's what they take off at a bar mitzvah.
Let's not go there. Hey, let's not go there.
There are times when you think your voice doesn't need to be utilized, and
Dom actually put it in the chat.
Well, we're not. Well, we're gonna put that to the side, and we'll discuss.
Yeah, we're gonna leave it in the chat. That's fine.
If anybody wants to read it, they can read it. This is a visual show. It's on the South Florida Tribune YouTube.
Well, they put it up there. I'll read it for you.
Yeah, we know you'll read anything. Well, just about. I'm not worried about you, Jeremy.
I will mute you if you read it. I will mute you.
Why, do you have the ability to do that on your end?
You do it too.
All right, there you go. I like the way he passes the puck.
You do it too.
Oh, I'm not. All right, you know what? I've had enough of that. Now we're going to go to the parting shots instead. You guys have been great tonight. Don't worry.
Wait. Before we go to parting shots, there is another team that nobody has mentioned that Rodgers could possibly go to.
What?
That would be kind of interesting. The Miami Dolphins.
No, not with Tua.
Tua's had how many concussions? And look at their wide receivers.
Two documented, 3 that we know of.
Tyreek Hill, Waddle. Their offense.
Gesicki.
Was moving it. What do they need? They need a quarterback that could throw to those two big weapons.
Healthy.
Well, you know what? They got to see him on Christmas Day anyways, even though Candy and I were freezing our tail off in Wisconsin while they were here, but that's another day. All right, Candy, it's okay to throw that in. Anything that people can do to get other ideas. It's all a public show where people are welcome to comment. The good, the bad, the ugly, the insane, and whatever's in the chat room. And I'll let everybody know out there, hey, what you put in the chat room is on record. So, I didn't type it. You did. So whatever you say, you go and comment for it. See, Brett, see what you haven't had in a little while, my friend?
We embrace
craziness and fun, and we moved it to Monday night.
We embrace free speech.
We're counting on your performance to be here on Monday night so you can go crazy with the rest of us people.
Or what about the Tennessee Titans, where Rodgers actually purchased a home last year in Nashville?
He's got decent wide receivers around him. He's got Derrick Henry behind him. He wouldn't have to do too much when you got a bulldozer like Derrick Henry behind you.
Excellent point, Eric. And you know what, Candy, thanks for bringing the Titans up. I think that would be a really intriguing possibility. We all know that Mike Vrabel knows how to coach. Mm-hmm. So, I think Tennessee has to fortify their wide receiving core, knowing that they traded one of their best wide receivers in the offseason. But that's what they have to draft for. All right, continue on in the chat room. I'll go ahead and post them up, and then we'll get to parting shots. As long as they keep putting up there and they want to talk, so are we. All right, there you go. Like I said in the preseason, Brady, the Dolphins. Never know if you're going to put Rodgers there. Brady can go there as well. The next one is, it. Will Vogel's at it again. Okay, South Florida Tribune and Sideline Sports and ESPN. I'll tell you, if anybody knows
greater than ESPN.
Over.
Oh, all right.
Greater than ESPN.
That's
greater than.
ESPN is nothing now.
That Will Vogel's using this mathematics stuff that I haven't seen, and when you have 20/70 vision, what do you expect? Sorry, Will, I missed the greater part, but it's up there anyway. So, Hakuna Matata. All right, now we go to parting shots before somebody else goes out there and adds another one. All right, with that said, Jeremy, give me your parting shots.
The future looks bright in the NFC, and because think about it, all of the good young quarterbacks are in the AFC minus Jalen Hurts, correct?
Yeah.
So, in all actuality, it would behoove Aaron Rodgers to stay out of the AFC and stay right in the NFC. So, one of those guys might actually pony up to get him. Who knows? That being said, I think he ends up retiring. I think that's the logical step in what will save Green Bay the most money in the long run, because he doesn't look interested in playing football anymore. And he said that whole thing about when the carousel goes around, you got to figure out when it's time to get off. And this might be it. That's a very telling statement.
I'm going upstairs, Eric Katz. Go ahead, Eric.
I mean, Rodgers can be very cryptic about things. He can say one thing, do the other, which he can say retirement. He was he was back at it again last year at this time, and he's doing it again this year. Heck, he was refusing to go to training camp just to sign that extension and eventually get his friend Randall Cobb back. But number one, he's got an opportunity to be reunited with Devontae Adams in a better situation with the Raiders. He and Devontae shred the league together when they were together, and they'll have an opportunity again. He also has Renfro. He's that number 2 receiver that he was begging for, and he'll have it in Renfro. And then also he's got a nice running back in Josh Jacobs behind him. The Raiders would be a perfect situation. Aside from the Chiefs, the division isn't that strong, but I have a feeling he and the Raiders would give the Chiefs a run for their money. And it'd also be great if they brought back that rivalry.
Okay, I'm going to read one more from Dom. I'm going to turn it over to Brett, and then we have George and Candy waiting in the wings. All right, retires and right to the Jets, just like Favre. Well, we've seen it before. Anything's possible again. All right, Brett, go ahead.
I was going to say the only reason I don't necessarily like Rodgers to the Raiders that much is you'd still be dealing with the Swiss cheese offensive line, so you wouldn't have really time to throw to Devontae Adams, and that defense is still really suspect. So I'm not sure if Rodgers going there really pushes them over the top to.
Green Bay's defense isn't that much better.
I say defense. Green Bay's defense ranked like 3rd against the pass. They're just rough against the run. But at least we were good in one aspect of defense. The Raiders are just bad in every aspect.
If you were that good at defense, you wouldn't have had an 8-9 record.
It's like I said, we couldn't stop the run. It is what it is.
Hey, Eric, you know what? This is Dom's shot, brother. Go ahead, finish it up.
But, yeah, I really just hope that Green Bay just trades Rodgers after the June 1st. At that point, we save $15 million, or he retires, because I don't want to see us just being in the worst spot to be in any professional sports, in the middle, not good enough to win, but not good enough to get that high pick. So I really hope we just pick a direction and go with it this offseason.
Well done, Brett. And we're glad to have you back. All right, Candy, give me your parting shot.
My parting shot is, Aaron, whatever you decide, don't take forever to decide. Don't hold the Packers handcuffed where we don't know which way to go. We don't know what we should draft. And stop demanding all these players that you love. I know it's great that you, a team member that wants to hold on to playing with other team members, but it didn't work for you this year. You didn't even make the playoffs with those same players. We can't, with the salary cap, unless you want to take a cut, we can't afford everybody. And I know you don't want to rebuild. You have 2 really good young wide receivers. Sometimes you don't have to call it a complete rebuild, but to get some good young talent in there that can maybe help you more is what's worth it. But don't take forever to make your decision, because you're holding us handcuffed right now.
Well done. All right, George, give me your parting shot.
Well, my parting shot has nothing to do with Brett Favre or the Green Bay Packers. It has everything to do with Salbando. We lost a good man. Just like Detroit and the Celtics mourn the loss of Chris Ford, the Oakland A's and the Milwaukee Brewers mourn the loss of Salbando. A great ball player, 4-time All-Star, champion with the Oakland A's, Charlie Finley's team. Then he came to Milwaukee. Good guy. We lost a really good man. So rest in peace, Salbando, and my condolences to his family and friends. And all the Brewers fans.
I'm actually connected with Salbando Jr. on LinkedIn. I wished him my condolences as well, and he responded back. And I'll be reaching out to Salbando Jr. My parting shot is a football one, okay? And that's this. The Cincinnati Bengals defeated the Buffalo Bills, so Kansas City got the home field, and there was no neutral site needed. You know what? To me, I'm glad. Nothing against the folks in Atlanta. I'm sure their hospitality was good. Joe Burrow says you better get those refunds ready.
Savage.
That was great. That was great.
Savage.
But you know
Because
what?
they sold 10,000 to Bills Mafia.
Yeah, well,
For Mercedes-Benz Field.
is involved in everything. But the thing, here's the deal, okay? I predicted Cincinnati would beat Buffalo last week, and I think a lot of people went out with Buffalo. But I like the Cincinnati Bengals, and I actually will tell you right now, okay, that I have a feeling they're going to beat Kansas City.
They will.
And for some reason, I have a weird feeling that the 49ers and the Eagles are close, but I think that the Eagles may win because I think they have home field advantage in that game, right? So
Mhm.
I guess if I'm going to predict my Super Bowl, it'd be Philadelphia against Cincinnati. Again, I didn't ask for Super Bowl predictions, but yeah, George, that was classy that you brought up Salbando Sr., and I had a chance to reach out to Salbando Jr., a guy who I've been wanting to get in touch with anyways. But there you have it. Home field advantage went to where it was supposed to go with the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'll say one other thing before I turn it over to everybody so they can let everybody know, congratulations to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Had an incredible year. They did. The Lions and the Jaguars were the two worst teams in football last year, and what a difference a year makes how they both went out there and turned things around relatively quickly. All right, Don Brew is only rooted for both because Kansas City can't beat Cincy. Well, Burrow owns Mahomes, and
Truth.
I'm feeling he probably will again this weekend. Don't sell the Bengals short. With that said, I'm going to go around the horn and let Jeremy let everybody know how they can get a hold of you.
Well, you can find my writings on www.southfloridatribune.com under the Motor City Tribune heading, where I'm listed with the likes of George Eichhorn and a few other people. That being said, you can also find me on my podcast with Kneecap Biting with Smoking Jeremy B on YouTube. You can also find me on the Sunday Morning Drive on the Sports Empire Network, and my writings are also on their page as well.
All right, Eric?
You can find me on my Twitter at Sports Team News, and also you can find my writings at bellyupsports.com, where I'm covering all things Major League Baseball.
Good stuff, Eric.
Nice.
Maybe one of these days when I get baseball going again, I'll probably bring back 108 Stitches. We haven't been doing it lately because we've been rotating with Inside the Pigskin, because what people have to understand is Candy and I will have been on the road 7 straight weekends after this next one. So I'm trying to make sure I'm rested up before I travel over the weekend. Eric, you're a candidate to return once in a while if you feel like it on 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. You played a good role before.
Oh, 100%. Football's kind of in right now. So
that too. Yeah, that too. So just keep it in mind. At least you don't have to worry because on Monday night you're here. All right, Brett, take it away. Let everyone know they get a hold of you.
Oh, yeah, you can tune into my podcast, Gardy 3. It's GARDI 3. It also has you can find that on Spotify and Anchor. It also has a Facebook page. Or if you want to continue the conversation on Twitter, it's just my name right there in the bottom, all lowercase at Brett Gardy on Twitter. And like I said, I just like talking sports. So if anybody wants to reach out, I'm all for it.
Right. And I want everybody to know, this is your crew here on Fire Up Wisconsin. I have a lot of diverse personalities, and what you saw tonight is what the future of this show is going to look like on Monday night, so we can join you. All right, George, go ahead, and Candy will speak for both of us.
All righty. I got a book called Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. There's a link to it at my columns on the Motor City Tribune underneath the South Florida Tribune. And I'm a writer there. I'm a writer for the Detroit Monitor locally in Detroit. And also you can reach me at gicorn@yahoo.com or on Twitter at SNG Sports 99.
Have a little bit of a brain there. Yeah, Jimmy Connors and Muhammad Ali. I mean, that was incredible how you put those two in there.
Oh, God.
Sorry, wasn't trying to be distracting. I think I'm getting an ear infection.
Yeah, I'm sure. Okay. No, it was great. How I always can tell you right now, to me, you putting those photos of Muhammad Ali and Jimmy Connors were incredible. Before I turn it over to Candy, I want to thank each and every one of you that participated in the chat room. We appreciate it very much. Your comments were so good. I have to sometimes you just go on a roll. We're either going to put them on the screen, read them. It doesn't matter. But thanks for everybody that participated tonight here on Fire Up Wisconsin. But that said, Candy, my voice is starting to crackle. Not that anybody would ever thought they'd see that here on any platform, that I may be losing it, but I'll have a little time to catch up. Candy, take it away. I'm done. My voice is just about out.
See that red subscribe button? Hit it. South Florida Tribune. Hit that red subscribe button. I want to see us get to 1,000 and more. Which number will you be? Which subscriber? You can find all of our broadcasts. We have Inside the Pigskin, 108 Stitches Baseball Talk, Sports Exchange, No Limits, Fire Up Wisconsin, Fire Up Michigan, Fire Up Florida. Where it stops, nobody knows. You get on the South Florida Tribune podcast if you want to listen to us. Hit up Apple, Google, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Listen to us. Again, hit that subscribe button. Be number 1,000. Who will it be? Otherwise, you can always go to our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. Email us, southfloridatribune@gmail.com, or catch Scott at Tribune South on Twitter.
Great job. All right, Candy, thank you very much for taking over for a little left half on the voice side, but that's all right. Happens. That's why I have you guys doing it. So you guys and lady to do it. Proud of each and every one of you. Proud of everybody that took the time of their night to join us tonight. So on behalf of Candy Ebling, Eric Katz, Fire Up Dwayne Casey, Jeremy Ballright. God, you're a trip. Scott Moore, Motor City Man Mouth laughing us off the air tonight because Jeremy did it again for the millionth time. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Fire Up Wisconsin. Have a great night, everybody, and thanks again for joining us.
Don't forget to neuter Aaron Rodgers.
I have nothing more to add.